Hello and welcome to the Masterclass by Xillion on how to supercharge your 401k. In this discussion, an engineer from Google, his name is Prahlad Purohit, he's going to join us and give us commentary on how to really supercharge your 401k by one, optimizing your contributions, and two, optimizing the tax situations. So without further ado, let's jump in. So Prahlad and I are going to answer all your questions. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat or directly here. And let's kick it off. We will go over investing principles. We'll also, the number one ask from this masterclass was how to compare 401k, IRA, Backdoor, Roth, all of those things. So we'll do a deeper dive into that. We'll also talk about old 401k accounts and how to roll them over and why you should roll them over. And also we will talk about how to optimize your 401k by removing high fee funds and adding low fee funds to your portfolio. And also how to optimize your employer contributions, and also the importance of rebalancing and not panicking, which is hard for all of us humans. So principles of investing. Rule number one, compounding rules. Everybody wants to, well, all of us at some point or another want to get rich quick. But we all eventually realize there isn't such a thing as get rich quick. You need to get rich slowly, and compounding is as Albert Einstein said, compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. And by investing early and investing continuously, you leverage compounding to become financially independent sooner. Also, we will talk about costs of funds and investing and trading. And it's always better to keep costs low. Goes without saying. How you can do that? By choosing low cost funds in your 401k portfolio. Really, really easy. And we'll walk you through that towards the second half of this talk. Taxes, we all have to pay for the upkeep of the nation and support the military and whatnot. But if there are ways to optimize how much tax we pay, we should. And we will show you certain ways to do that. Keeping it simple. Actually, every account you create, every new investment you make, everything takes up your time. And in this day and age, your time is absolutely the most crucial thing you have, and the only thing you have control over. So you want to use that judiciously, and keeping things simple keeps you focused on the things that really matter to you and things you're really good at, and keeps your finances simple and keeps them actually more scalable. Also maintain, you should stay on track. Markets go up, markets go down, banks fail, banks stabilize, recessions happen, actually economies recover from recession. It's important to stay on track, keep investing, and rebalance every so often. And we'll go into that detail as well. Okay, so the first thing, compounding. Compounding is one area that is so simple to understand, a concept that is so simple to understand, yet it is so hard to grasp, especially because compounding doesn't happen right away. It doesn't happen in a month, in a year. It takes a long time. And what you see in here is the beauty of compounding. Let's say today you started saving $22,500 annually, which is the annual limit for 401k set by the government. If you start investing just that amount, the 401k amount, into S&P 500 fund, a low-cost S&P 500 fund like FXAIX or VOO or something similar, or SPY, by year 18, you will have $1 million in your account. Imagine that. $1 million, even though you would have contributed your own money to the effect of, say, about $400,000. That's going to be your contribution, but you will have about $1 million in your account. That's the beauty of compounding. And not just that, if you continue on that pace, and this assumes that 401k contributions don't change. Actually, this is the lowest amount you will have over a 15, 20, and 30-year period. In 30 years, if you're 30 and you start putting your the maximum 401k allowed amount today for the rest of your life or for the next 30 years, you are looking at more than $3.5 million by the time 30 years come around. That's the power of compounding. And out of which you would have contributed about 600,000 or so. The rest of it is all compounding. And the longer you let your money compound, the better the results will be, as you can see from this chart. This is all compounding. And the magic really begins after 7-8 years. That's when you can see that the compound growth starts eclipsing your own funds. So stay invested for the long term. By popular demand, this is the thing that we wanted to spend most of our time in. We asked all you participants what you wanted to dig deeper into. And the consistent theme we got was difference between 401k, Roth, IRA, blah, blah, blah. So we're like, you know what? Let's jump right in. So here's, one question when I ask most people is, do you know how much you can contribute towards your retirement in pre-tax and post-tax? Most people is like, $22,500. Well, that's the wrong answer. The right answer is you can put up to $80,000 as an individual in tax-advantaged accounts that you can stash away towards your retirement. That's a pretty big number, right? My guess is you're surprised. But Prahlad and I will go into detail and you will see exactly how you can do that. First and foremost, the first step you should do, everyone should do, is maximize your 401k contribution, which is for 2023, it's $22,500. The beauty of this is you get tax deduction on this, right? So if you're in 30% tax bracket or 25%, you contribute $22,000, you're basically saving $5,500 taxes on that. So overall, just go for it. Second, figure out how much does your employer match when you contribute to 401k. If your employer matches up to 50%, which is some of the highest paying companies, especially here in Silicon Valley, they do that, Facebook and Google and Microsoft, they do that. Then make sure you get the highest possible match, maximum match, up to 50%. So with that, you can now contribute up to $33,500 actually $750 into your retirement account, into your 401k account. And you don't pay any tax on employer contribution. That's just employer's contribution. Also, another thing is, if your employer allows, you can put $66,000, which is the federal government maximum allowance for all 401k. $66,000 minus everything that you and your employer contribute. You can contribute that amount into a post-tax 401k. I have done that for many, many years, and it's a great way. And Prahlad will show you how you can convert this post-tax into Roth later. But so if you go by this, you can actually contribute another $33,750 towards your post-tax 401k. Now that brings the total to $66,000. That's the federally allowed maximum 401k amount you can put in. But most people don't know this. Even if you have a 401k, IRS still allows you to put $6,500 into post-tax IRA account, individual. If you're married, then you can put the same amount, for your spouse, if the spouse is not working. So that's another $13,000. But even if you take individual, it's $6,500. Now you're able to contribute a total of $72,500. And if your employer offers HSA, which is the health savings account, and if you have a high deductible health insurance plan, you can opt for HSA. If you opt for HSA, you can contribute another $7,750 per household towards your retirement account, basically. Now that total is $80,250. You see, you can put up to $80,250 towards tax advantaged accounts by following all the rules and regulations, but being aware and being smart about it. In the next section, Prahlad is going to cover how you can actually convert the post-tax 401k into a Roth 401k. Prahlad, over to you.
Pay tax already. Likewise, in case of IRA, you pay tax upfront already, right? So for things upfront already, you can actually roll over that money for both these post-tax as well as IRA. You can roll over that money to a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, right? And in which case, what happens is you already paid money, it goes as Roth. Roth, the growth is tax-free. So what it means is if you kept it in regular IRA post-tax, you will pay tax on the growth part. But if you convert it to Roth, you never pay any tax even on the growth part. And this is where you take very big advantage of never taxing anything on this money ever again. And this is called Backdoor for IRA because it's 6,500, and Mega Backdoor because even bigger amount, 33,000 plus for the pre-tax 401k. So those are back options for converting your IRA and pre-tax 401k to Roth and never pay tax again on this money.
But you do have to fill out certain forms to do that, correct?
Precisely, yeah. So it goes as like a rollover. So you will get 1099-R from your custodian of the account, and that 1099-R will have to be reported on your tax return. There's no because you rolled over or anything, but it basically goes as part of your tax records that you did this rollover. All right, let's talk about pre-tax versus Roth 401k. So like I was saying, look, pre-tax 401k is tax deferred. What it means is you don't pay tax today, right? Using the compounding chart that Vidhan and I were showing, the money keeps growing, and at some point you retire, and you want to take money during your retirement. The way it works is when you take money out during that year, that income gets that money that you take out is counted as a regular income, and you pay tax on it at that time, which is why tax deferred. You don't pay tax today, but you will pay tax at some point on every your original part. And this is why it's tax deferred. On the other hand, the Roth 401k is kind of you it's pre-taxed. You always pay tax on anything that goes into Roth. Now, whether it goes via Roth 401k or it goes via pre-tax 401k and then rolls over, or you go via IRA and then rolls over. And the moment it rolls over, be taxed. For instance, even if you were pre-tax 401, pre-tax IRA eligible, you rolled over to Roth IRA, but when you roll over to Roth IRA, you will pay tax on it. So Roth is always tax paid, but the thing is you never pay tax again after that on the growth. Now you might ask me like, okay, like now how do you decide like, hey, I mean, in one way or other you're paying tax, but in case of Roth you don't pay on growth, but then you pay it today. Today's money value is more than in the future. Like sorry, today's money is worth more than in the future because of the depreciation and everything. So if you account for all those factors, but the way it boils down to is now, paying now versus in future is mostly a function of what is your tax bracket today, marginal tax bracket today, versus tax rate to be for marginal income in the future. If you think that your tax bracket today is higher than what it will be in your retirement, it makes sense to not pay tax today, but pay tax in your retirement because you will have lower tax rate in the retirement. But if you think you will earn way more in retirement because you will retire super rich, you will have a lot of investment, a lot of properties earning income for you, passive income, whatever, and you will income anyway, then it doesn't make sense to defer it because you deferred it and then what? You pay higher tax than that. To give you one concrete example of my own, when I was early in my career, I could contribute to pre-tax IRA. because my income was lower. I contributed quite a bit there. And then at one point, my income went above that threshold. And then I can't do pre-tax, so I have to do post-tax. Roll over that to Roth. So when I was saving money in the pre-tax IRA, I was saving at 15% tax bracket. But when I decided to roll over, it was 37% marginal. And then the thing is like when you roll over, there's no such thing as rolling over pre-tax and post-tax separate. It's like cream and milk, it mixed up. You have to prorate it every time you kind of roll over a bit, depending on what is paid and what's not paid. And I ended up paying tax 37% for rollover. So here's the practical scenario. Like, so if you think you'll retire super rich, don't do it. Don't do Roth 401k, do pre-tax. But none of us are going to be perfect in that prediction in the future. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I retire super rich, maybe I want to, but will I? So it's advisable to do like a mix and match of both. Maybe do pre-tax 401k to the limit it allows you, and do the after-tax for the tax pre-taxed part already. Do half and half. Do any combination of whatever you choose, like depending on your prediction. But half and half works for most of people, I think. Any questions on this? Um, there is, how is pre-tax, Pankaj has a question, how is pre-tax 401k contribution different from Roth contribution? Pankaj, a lot of employers will allow you, sorry, how is post-tax contribution different from Roth contribution? So yeah, but so basically for Roth, government has set an income limit for a direct Roth contribution. For post-tax 401k, there is no income limit. I mean, anybody can do it if employer allows, but if employer allows, if you don't, employer doesn't allow, you can't do pre-tax 401k. But because government has income limit, and originally they put it because they wanted people with lesser income to take advantage of this tax-free growth. But then there is a taxation loophole that basically allows anyone to roll over funds from 401k or IRAs to Roth and paying tax when they do the rollover. And so because of that loophole, anybody can do it essentially. And that's why it's called a backdoor. It's not for a reason. And last year there was a proposal from in the Congress to basically do away with this backdoor and kill this backdoor, but that hadn't materialized. But it could happen in future where they close this backdoor. Does that answer your question, Pankaj? Okay, thanks. And Pankaj also asked if these contributions are applicable irrespective of how. So Roth has income limit threshold because that was a legit purpose of the intent of the government's ruling. But then there is a backdoor, so anybody actually can take advantage. Um, okay, let's keep going. So we talked about various kinds of funds and kind of investment options, and let's talk about like at a summary, like what they mean. So you can have like a regular, like more like your brokerage account. So what happens in that case is when you contribute, your money is coming post-tax. When money grows in it because your investment becomes bigger, the growth, anytime you take out the money, will be taxed. And if it's a dividend, it will be taxed in the year you accrue the dividend. There is no such thing as growth for dividend. You pay the tax in the year it happens in the marginal tax bracket. Draw it by selling and disposing the assets. Will you pay the tax? No. I mean, will pay tax only on the growth, no separate tax on anything else. So grows, you pay tax only on growth, no separate tax on original part. Make sense? So that's a regular for brokerage. Now, what does it mean tax deferred? That's more like 401k, for example, or even like pre-tax IRA, for example. Contribute, you will not be taxed because it's tax deferred. When you take money out, you will be taxed not only on growth but also on principal. Everything that comes out of a tax deferred account will be taxed. Then there is tax advantage. This is more like Roth account, for example. Or whether it's backdoor, mega backdoor, regular Roth, one way like by hook or crook, you got somehow in the legal sense, not by hook or crook means illegal. The legal law allows it, even though it's backdoor. Your contribution is always taxed. Growth is never taxed. Withdrawal is never taxed. You never pay tax on that money again after. Um, and then there is a triple advantage. And this is where I was referring to HSA. Look, the money that goes into in your HSA account is not taxed by federal states, New Jersey and California that do tax the contribution. So it's kind of, but then the bigger tax is state federal tax, not the state. I would still say it's tax, not taxed kind of, but it's a caveat. Growth is also not taxed, but again, growth is taxed in California. Withdrawal is also not taxed if it is for medical purposes or qualified purposes. How, hey, if I have 100K money in my in my HSA account by the time I get old, and if I didn't use this money, I would say, look, you will need that money when you get old. Your medical costs only increase when you get old, so you will get a big advantage on the medical cost because you have money here and you don't pay tax on it. The second is, what if, look, you're very super healthy and until God forbid you pass away, nothing, like you don't need that case. It's just this money can be used as exactly like your IRA or 401k, wherein you can take the distributions after a certain age threshold and it will be taxed just like as if it was 401k. So in the worst case, it becomes as great as 401k. In the best case, it's way better. Any
Um,
questions?
I do want to note that HSA, if you have a PPO or a HMO plan, typically you cannot get HSA. You need a high deductible health plan to be eligible for HSA, and your employer may or may not offer HSA as a benefit. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Gagan. Yeah, and one more thing to add on this is some employers basically give you free seed. Some employers give as high as like 2,000, 3,000 seed money every year. They seed your HSA with that much money every year, so it's like a free money to keep in this account. But again, it comes with caveat that you have to go for a high health deductible plan, which may be yes, pro or cons, depends individual needs. All right, let's look at in the light of what we. Sorry, Gagan, go
Maybe
ahead.
this one we can, okay, I'll let you just give a quick overview. And everyone, if everything doesn't make sense, don't worry, we will send the deck to you so you can keep it, like notes, and if need be, refer to it later as well.
Yep, sounds good, Karan. So this is basically like in the light of what we discussed in terms of different types. This is self-explanatory as such, so we'll not discuss this. So like an eye chart to see like, hey, where it stands in terms of tax strategy for different kinds of contributions. And like we were saying earlier, your Roth IRA has an income threshold to do it in a straight way, but in a backdoor way, there is no such thing. You can roll over everything in IRA or after-tax 401k to Roth IRA. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Prahlad. For any other questions before we jump into, okay, there's one question. If both spouses are working, can each have HSA account by separate health plans?
Yes, but it will not be that beneficial because when you have individual HSA account, the contribution limit is half. So if you're asking this from the perspective of the growth that will happen in HSA and the tax advantage benefit, you're not really going to significant benefit by it. But however, if your employer is doing a match in a way that doubling it becomes better, but usually it's not because even the match is half, the seed funding is going to be half if you're doing individual. So it depends. But generally, I wouldn't advise this because it's not going to give you much.
Yeah, I think individual is 3,650 and or 3,850,
Yeah.
so in that range. And for family, it doubles that amount.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions on Roth and 401k, HSA, backdoor Roth that Prahlad can answer? Okay, I take that as a no. But if you do have questions, feel free to type it in the chat or ask here, and happy to come back to it. The second thing that people wanted to know more about was rollover. And this is, we all change jobs. That's just the nature of working in tech. What I have found is that if you leave money in old 401ks, few things happen. Old 401ks start eating your money. It's just a thing. Old 401ks are designed in such a way that what happens is 401k providers like Schwab and Fidelity and Prudential, they give really sweet deals to employers so they can use their product. But when an employee leaves, that employer is not on the hook for that employee. So they relegate you into less healthy funds, and that eats up money, and it reduces your returns. It reduces your financial control and adds stress. What I mean by that is, my rule of thumb is if you have an account with any bank, whether it's 401k or savings or checking, you need about an hour a month per account to really tend to it. And that is also when they send you a statement, they send you an email. When you add all that up, it's about an hour a month. And let's be honest, we all are, professionals working more than full-time job, raising kids, families. We just don't have time. And because of this, the money flounders, and 401ks, the old 401ks, really become a drag on your account. And also, out of sight is out of mind, right? I mean, if you don't look at them, then they're obviously getting farther and farther. So highly recommend, if you have any old 401ks, roll them over today. Like literally today, right after this call, you roll them over either A, into your existing 401k, which is what I recommend for most people, or you can create a new IRA account and move everything over to that. Super easy. How easy is it? Literally call the old 401k provider, tell them sell everything and send the checks to my address. That's it. There is no tax issue with that, because the money will go from 401k to 401k or 401k to IRA. No tax issues. And when you get those checks in mail, call your new 401k and said, hey, where do I send these checks? And send those checks. That's it. It literally shouldn't take more than 30 to 45 minutes of your total time. Okay, please do it. Totally worth it. And which one should you do, IRA or 401k? I recommend 401k. You will have less control over what you can invest in. However, you will actually have less stress as well, because you will have fewer decisions to make. But if you want to own this decision making, let's say, I'm just making up, let's say you have $200,000 from a previous employer in an old 401k account. If you move that into your existing 401k, you can only buy Fidelity funds or Vanguard funds, depending upon where your 401k is. But if you actually get into IRA, you can buy stocks with it. You can be more creative. You can buy ETFs with it. So IRA gives you more control, but yes, you would need more time and more stress. Prahlad said that choosing between IRA and 401k, 401k is bankruptcy protected. I did not know that. See, I learn every time I talk to Prahlad. Thank you, Prahlad, for clarifying that. I think one way to protect IRA would be to make the IRA in name of your trust rather than yourself. That way you can protect it. Okay. Any questions on rollover? That's all I have to say about rollovers. Any questions on this? Great. Okay. The third thing that people wanted to know was, how can you improve the returns of your 401k? This is my 401k. I still have a little bit of money just to play around, because we are working with Xillion. This is what they show you. This is Fidelity, right? The biggest asset holder in terms of 401k providers. And look at this. This is how they are asking me to make a decision on where to invest, right? I mean, what do I know? FID, Contra Fund, K6. I have no idea what that means, right? And most people will not even know what does stock investments, large cap, mid cap, international mean, right? And they do a deliberate job of confounding these issues, right? For instance, even if you click on one of those funds, they will tell you, oh, these are the numbers. They basically bombard you with numbers so that it'll be very hard for you to make a decision. But I actually, one time I dug deep. I'm like, okay, what is this 2040 fund that they have in my account? Well, I looked at it. They're like, oh, the returns of this fund are fantastic, and it doesn't have much risk. And it gave 8.6% over 10 years, okay? And the expense ratio is 0.75%. Keep this in mind, okay? Then I went and looked at, and this is Fidelity's own fund. Then I looked at another fund. I'm like, why should I invest in that fund and why not this fund, FXAIX? The fee on this one is 50 times less than their original fund, okay? Their target fund. And they are saying the returns are less than the other fund. Actually, the returns are more. That fund is 8.6 and this fund is 12.95. This is as of last year. Still much, much better than the other one, and same risk category. My point is, banks will try their level best to make more money off of you, because this is a zero-sum game. If you make more money, banks typically make less money. So your goal is to make more money. And so Xillion helps you, we don't want to bombard you. We are like, hey, listen, you have this fund in your account. This has lower returns and this has higher fee. You should go with this fund. It has higher returns. It has lower fee. Simple. We make the decision really simple. We show you that if you choose to invest in that fund, you can make X million dollars more over the years. And this is a real customer's data. They had like $25,000, $30,000 in one of these funds. And just look at this, even $30,000 over a period of 30 years can make a huge difference if invested properly. Any questions on how to make decisions on which fund is good, which fund is bad? Okay, great. The next one is maximizing employer contribution. Prahlad, do you have specific thoughts on this?
I would say, like, look, any money that is employer match is free money, right? You get it free today and it keeps growing because of the compounding, and just take the free money. So you definitely want to kind of invest for the employer match. And I would say employer match, like, kind of invest all the way I can, like go to whole 80K if you like. But
Great. And one thing I would say is most of us who work in tech do not face this, but if you are not in tech, some people like to front load their 401k. So let's say you want to get, Prahlad is a big fan of this, and that's how I actually learned it. I learned it from Prahlad. You can actually contribute all your 401k in the first 3 to 4 months of the year. You don't have to do it over 12 months. But if you work for a company like a Google or a Square or a Facebook or Airbnb, they will give you the money whenever you want. They're the employer match. But if you work for another company that is a more traditional company, they will say, hey, we will only match 4% of your salary or 6% of your salary. In that case, you do not want to front load. You want to always get the 6% per month. Even if you front load some, you have to leave the rest so you can every month get 6% of your salary. So that's an important point. Employer match is capped. Actually, in finance sector, I know companies throw like $40,000. I think 66,000 is the maximum cap for what goes into retirement accounts, which includes employer match. But technically, there isn't a strict employer match up to that 66,000 amount. Great question, Prashant. And I have known finance companies to put at the end of the year bonus. They actually, some companies put like 20,000, 30,000 into employees' 401k account as a bonus. Okay, any questions on employer contribution? Great. Rebalance and don't panic. I think Prahlad mentioned it briefly. In the interest of time, we're going to skip it a little bit. But overall, the goal is markets go up, markets go down. S&P 500 gives 10% over the long run. Don't worry about it. Don't panic. Stay invested. Keep investing more. Actually, if you, rule of thumb is if market drops more than 10% in a month, it might not be a bad idea to buy more. In the long run, you are likely to come out better. It's hard. I will be the first one to admit it is hard, but investing more in a down market is actually a good thing.
And that's a great point, Gagan. If I was to add maybe one more statement on that, like adding more as a function of how much it is dropping, like it dropped like 10% in that day, like just you see the trend, like I would just invest more, like more money than I invest usually. Obviously that way in some sense, when like if I know I'm investing $5,000 a month, maybe I do it only 3,000 to begin with, and if I see certain times when it's dropping more, then keep that buffer power to kind of dump that money at that time. More it drops, deeper, like maybe invest. Again, it's hard. It's not easy. You never time it. You can never say it's the deepest point. Be cautious.
Great. Okay, we're going to open it up. Any questions you have? Again, please feel free to ask any question. There are no silly questions. There are no stupid questions. There are no dumb questions. I have been in the same position that each one of you are in right now. I have asked really, really basic questions to people like Prahlad and learned a ton. So please ask any questions you might have. Happy to answer any and all questions. Having Prahlad here is actually a gift. He really is very knowledgeable. Feel free to pick his brain now. And also I should mentioned, Prahlad is also a mentor on Xillion. So in future, if you have a question about 401k, retirement plan, Roth, Backdoor Roth, come to Xillion, follow him as a mentor, and fire your questions away. He will be more than happy to answer your questions on Xillion as well. And also, we will send this deck to everyone. And I do want to apologize in the beginning, the mix-up and all that. I'm so sorry. This is our inaugural webinar, and we made some rookie mistakes. But I promise you, next one on will be very smooth, and we will be on top of things. And questions? If not, feel free to drop off. It was great having you, and thank you so much for joining.
I see Isha has a question, Gagan.
Isha, could you please provide advice and comment on these investments, especially if I were to leave US, like move countries in the next few years before retirement? Okay, Isha, my first advice, don't leave the US. It's a great country. That's my...
It's the H1B stuff, Gagan. I'm thinking of
Oh.
moving to Canada to become a citizen, because over here it's becoming crazy.
Okay, even on that, I have a proposal for you. Don't go anywhere. Get an O1 visa. Okay, I can help you there. Don't worry, I'll write a glowing recommendation. So do whatever you can to not leave the country, because the wage difference that you will experience, it'll be very hard to make up for that. And this is strictly financial advice, right? And H1B, don't worry. Connect with me. Let's talk again, and I'll help you. But I don't think your investment should change at all based on where you're going to be. My guess is even if you leave the country for a few years, in a few years you'll be back. That's my best guess. So don't change anything. Don't shake things up. Leave even if you have to go and sail around the world for 3 years, 5 years, that's okay. When you come back, your investments will be waiting right here for you.
Okay, but if you were to, let's say, settle in some other place, you don't come back, is there a disadvantage with the 401k investments?
As far as I know, no, there
Okay.
aren't.
Okay.
So it's totally safe and okay to leave your 401k as is. If you actually withdraw it, there might be disadvantage there because you'll have to pay taxes, and it's just a whole lot more mess to deal with.
Right. Okay.
In fact, if I was to add on that, right? So if you're moving countries, I would imagine like in any other place other than the US, the wage levels are lower. So when you move, you can, I mean, of course, like I agree with Gagan that nobody should move, don't move, but rolling over your 401k at that time to maybe something like Roth IRA, which is pre-taxed, right? Because you will be in lower tax bracket at that time, maybe rolling over gradually every year to keep the tax bracket lower and moving it all to Roth IRA where you never pay tax again would be ideal. And also one other thing I want to add is once the money is in Roth IRA, you can simple part out for any reason. And you can even take the growth part out with certain qualified purposes like education, hardship, there are lots of things.
Okay.
So the money becomes more available, and and you take tax advantage. But again, the devil is in the details.
But Isha, if you're just moving, don't worry about it. But don't move. We'll figure out a way. Don't worry.
I will connect with you. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Question from Venki. Does it make sense to pay 1%? Venki, my friend, never, ever. It's never worth paying 1% to the bankers. Trust me, and we read it. Venki and I went to business school together. 98% of money managers cannot beat S&P 500 over a 15-year period. 98%. And those schmucks who sit in Fidelity and Schwab and all those, they are actually in the 5th percentile. Forget the 98th percentile. The only money managers who make money in the stock market are people like, Jim Simons and the quant funds and like that. Anyone else, they don't deserve your 1%. The best thing you can do, if you live in America, bet on America. This is what I tell everyone. That's what I did. About 12 years ago, I dumped everything else and I just put 50% of my 401k into S&P 500 fund, 50% into growth fund. That's it. American growth companies and American large companies. And I've gotten like 12, 13% returns over the years. That's what it's a little bit high risk, but at the same time, if you're not planning to retire in the next 10, 15, 20 years, why not take the risk? Most of us are fortunate and to have comfortable jobs with steady incomes. Put that money away for 20 years in great American companies. Never pay that 1%. No. Hey, you can pay us, $30 a month and we will do everything for you. Way less than 1%. Sanjay, let's connect offline. We are always hiring, so hook up with me on LinkedIn and look me up, and we will connect and let's talk. Any other question, anyone? No question is a silly question. Trust me, I have asked all those questions myself. Okay, I'm going to give maybe 10 more seconds. If you have questions, feel free to type it, feel free to ask it. Yes, I will send this document over to everyone. Venki, when you retire and ready to take money out, is it better to take lumps or annuity? Venki, I will let you know which is better. But in general, so many things to do. We are building a tool that will help you do that. But lump is, what marginal tax rate you want to pay. I think it's going to come down to that. Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And you can also, the tools that I talked about, you can use them. You can start your 1-month free trial today on xillionapp.com. You can also follow Prahlad and ask him great questions there, and he will be happy to answer. You can ask me questions on Xillion. You can use the tools, by yourself. So feel free to use that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prahlad.
Thanks, all. Thank you, Gagan.
Bye.
See ya.